previous payout from my last company, which pretty much blew up in the dot-com bust when I lost the full 400,000 US that I had at the time and went broke. And then the idea I was working on at the time, of course, pitching to VCs and what have you, ended up being borrowed by a friend of mine who then later ended up selling his company for about $1 billion. So that was a really nice community sort of experience, right? But being social became my way of life, and in 2004, when things started happening again, I was very fortunate to get engaged in what was then the burgeoning area of social media. And in 2005, I attended the first bar camp, and that completely changed my life, and that's ultimately why I think I'm here today. Because in 2006, I launched something called Social Media Club, which is now in something like 150 cities around the world, and a very ad hoc thing. It's been an organic growth. We try to bring people together to promote media literacy, to share best practices, to learn from one another, and also to promote industry standards like OpenID, Creative Commons, and to support good organizations like EFF and the Archive and others. Essentially, I'm a geek. And I always thought that being a geek was cool, even when I was 7, right? Who here, I also learned something else. And I wonder if maybe a few of you could join me in this, because I, state your name, have ADD. It seems to be a common trait amongst my friends when I get out and talking, and it makes it a little difficult from time to time, but I think we have a little linear story here to tell you. Interestingly enough, though, during that time I actually designed and built a CMS system for Palm, not to run on Palm, but for Palm, the company that they used, and over the course of several years we were able to get many people migrated onto it, essentially saving them something like $100,000 a month. But I built it from scratch and did everything with actually doing it except the code, because I'm not really a coder. But I'm not just a geek entrepreneur or a marketing wanker. You know, I think holistically. This is very important because what's happening now is so diverse and it's in so many different places that if you end up focusing too much on any given thing, that specialization really makes you lose the bigger picture. And in fact, one of the biggest challenges we have now that I think has led to this economic crisis we're dealing with is that there aren't enough people looking at the whole interest of their organization. There's only those people on the top really looking at it, then all those people with those specific assignments underneath. And of course we know command and control hierarchy model has its own problems to deal with. So why am I here today? Well, I guess I'm providing an outside voice and some insights on social media and some of my other experiences. But most importantly, I'm also a frustrated Drupal customer. And I do use the word customer very specifically here, because that's how I think of myself in buying the services and doing it. Or rather, I'm really actually a wannabe customer because I've had 2 false starts with Drupal developers over the years who said they knew what they were doing, but didn't. Who ended up really costing us a lot of money and pain and anger. Now, that said, I'm as much to blame. Remember, I've got ADD. So writing requirements, specs, and those things is challenging for me. But the problems that I ran into in getting this set up was ridiculous. We had modules that weren't working together. I had people telling me I couldn't get on the latest release because those modules weren't updated. And essentially what I really wanted to do, which seemed really simple to me, having built a CMS from scratch myself and thought about this deeply for some time, wasn't possible. It was possible, but it would have taken so much customization and coding, it was financially impossible, and from a time perspective, I thought, also impossible, although I find out now that I don't have a Drupal site, that maybe it was if I took some more time, and of course if I had more money. So let's come back to that a little bit later, because I have some ideas that I'd like to share with you on what we do need next, and how to think about that a little bit differently. So let's talk a little bit about social media. Now, there's a lot of misperceptions out there, and there's a lot of problems also with people talking about it in all sorts of grandiose terms and avoiding the practical elements of it. But let's talk about what it is specifically.